Hello, how are you guys this afternoon? Woo! Excellent. When we laugh, we relax. When we relax, we learn. Humor is a gift. Humor provided me with a number of gifts in my life, but before I share those with you, I would like to tell you about the gifts that humor has for you. According to research at Loma Linda University in California, did you know that 1 minute of anger can weaken your immune system by 5 hours? On the other hand, 1 minute of laughter can strengthen your immune system by 24 hours. Humor helps us fight stress. Also, when we associate information with humor, we tend to remember that information longer. In my keynote, Relieving Work-Related Stress with Humor, one of the ingredients I include is a positive attitude. A positive attitude includes humor. I think that's so important. I put that as number 1 on the list. Let me ask you something. How many people here in the room consider themselves positive people? Positive people by a show of hands? Good, excellent. Now, I know some people have their hands down, maybe they're shy, maybe they're skeptical. If you're skeptical, that's okay. There's comedians who tend to be skeptical, and that's cool. That gives them that skewed perspective that makes them funny. But consider this, according to research at the University of Utrecht in the Netherlands, positive people statistically live longer than negative people. How much longer? Up to 10 years longer. Now how many positive people do we have in the room? A little bit more. And listen, there's no magic to it. It just makes common sense. Positive thoughts equal positive actions equal a positive, purposeful life. But I get it. Sometimes it's hard to be positive. And in those moments, I say, throw the superhero cloak over your shoulders. 2 of the most important words in the world are thank you, the attitude of gratitude. Just by saying thank you, we release all sorts of positive chemicals in our brains. Increased gratitude equals increased self-esteem equals increased confidence. If you need more proof, consider a study that the United Nations does every year, the happiest places in the world. And luckily, Canada has been in the top 10 for years. But what was interesting about the study, there were some countries that had a lot of crime, a lot of poverty, that scored higher than other countries that had less crime, less poverty. And one of the reasons was that advertisers don't care about poor people. Advertisers aren't marketing towards poor people. And as a result, poor people are forgotten about. And as a result, poor people aren't flipping through magazines all day targeted towards them going, you know what, I'll be happy when I buy my own island. I'll be happy when I buy my own private jet. I'll be happy when I buy my own yacht. Instead, poor people say, I'm happy to be alive. I'm grateful to be alive. Thank you. And if some kid in Indonesia making $10 a day can find something in their life to be grateful for, who am I here in Canada to complain because I can't assemble my IKEA furniture? Like, really? Although IKEA furniture is a little bit frustrating. I went to IKEA the other day. Took me 3 hours to assemble my bookshelf. Yeah, it's supposed to be a bed. I'm sleeping on a bookshelf now. They give you the instructions. The instructions never have words. They just have pictures. Do you notice that? I mean, you know the instructions are complicated when the people in the pictures are arguing with each other. But think about it. The first world problems that we complain about. This year started off a little bit spooky for me. 3 weeks after Christmas, I was visited by the ghost of Christmas past, Visa, and I don't know how my bills got so high. I did all my Christmas shopping at Costco. We have any Costco fans in the room? Yes! Okay, don't go crazy on me. I don't have anything to give away. But isn't Costco addictive? You go in for toilet paper, you come out with a trampoline. How does that happen? You know what it is? It's the free samples. Don't you love the free samples? We tell our kids not to take candies from strangers. Meanwhile, at Costco, some freak in a hairnet and rubber gloves hands you cat food on a Triscuit, and you put it in your mouth. You want another one. Meow. So the importance of humor is so significant in our lives. I've certainly used it. Doing stand-up comedy, I've certainly had some hell gigs in my past. I remember one particular gig in northern Alberta. It was a hell gig. It's the type of room that shouldn't have been doing stand-up comedy in the first place. So 10 minutes into my act, the audience is like, boo, get off the stage. 20 minutes into my act, boo, get off the stage. And the management was really smart. They paid me my money ahead of time. So the money was burning a hole in my pocket, right? There was no way I was leaving the stage. But just at the 30-minute mark, just when I thought it couldn't get any worse, one of the performers in the back of the room had a chimpanzee on a leash. The chimpanzee snapped off the leash, started running towards the stage. I dropped the mic. I'm like, to heck with this. I'm out of here. To the biggest round of applause and laughter I ever got in my career up to that point. So the power of laughter is amazing. And by the way, while you were laughing there, you just boosted your immune system by 24 hours. So you're welcome. When we laugh, we relax. When we relax, we learn. And also when we laugh, we release endorphins. Endorphins are natural painkillers. When we laugh, we release serotonin. Serotonin is known as the happy hormone. Serotonin actually helps us process information 10 times faster. So laughing actually makes us smarter. Babies have the vocal ability to laugh at 17 days old. On average, babies laugh 300 times a day. Adults, we laugh 25 times a day. I get it. It's hilarious being a baby with the eating, the pooping, the sleeping. I get it. But where did we lose 275 laughs? When did we become so self-conscious? If you need further proof, the superpower of humor. Consider a journalist in the 1960s, a gentleman by the name of Norman Cousins. Norman Cousins wrote for the New York Post. He was diagnosed with a terrible tumor on his spine. Doctors told him to get his affairs in order. And Norman said, you know what, if I'm gonna die, I'm going out like a Roman candle. And instead of checking himself into the hospital, he went home with all the movies that made him laugh up to that point in his life. And Norman said when he woke up in excruciating pain, he would pop in one of these movies, and for 10 minutes of belly laughter, he could actually sleep for a solid 2 hours. And do you know, 6 months from the date that Norman was diagnosed with that terrible tumor, that tumor went away, and Norman went on to live a normal life. So the power of humor is phenomenal. Humor is a gift. As I said off the top, humor gave me a lot of gifts. Humor gave me very funny parents. My dad's from Holland, my mom's from Guyana. I'm actually half Dutch, 1/4 Asian, 1/8 black, and 1/8 vodka. It's a perfect combination. Both my parents are very funny people, but they grew up in some pretty unfunny times. My dad grew up in Holland during the Second World War, where he spent most of his childhood underneath the basement stairs with a kitchen pot over his head because Holland got bombed so badly during the Second World War. Meanwhile, in Guyana, my mom's country had a lot of poverty, but I always remember my mother saying that whenever somebody came to their back door asking for food, my grandmother would give them at least a cup of rice, even if that was the only thing that she had. And both my mother and father said they grew up with a lot of love and a lot of laughter in their homes, even though there were some pretty scary times. Now, growing up with my parents, my two sisters and I, even though they were funny, they were very strict. And they came from the old countries. They didn't mess around. If they had to discipline us, naturally, we would be mad. I remember this one time my dad yelled at me so much my hair was blowing back. And then I didn't want to talk to him afterwards. But then after a while, I had my arms crossed, I didn't want to laugh, I didn't want to talk to them, but then my mom or my dad would crack a joke. and we would all be laughing. And at a very young age, my sisters and I learned that humor could be used as an olive branch. Humor could be used as a communication tool. Like my parents, I leaned on humor during the good and not so good times in my life. For example, I always wanted to be a veterinarian. In fact, during high school, I actually worked at a vet for 3 years. Unfortunately, during my second year of university, 70% of my fruit flies and 50% of my final mark flew out of the biology class window. I was devastated. This is all I had focused on up to that point. And I took a very logical step after that. I quit university. And then I took the next logical step. I got in my car and drove to the United States to do stand-up comedy for 3 months. Did I have any prior comedy experience? Hell no, minor detail. Did I bomb? Yes, more than the First and Second World War put together. As Edmund Kean says, dying is easy, comedy is hard. Did I learn? Hell yeah. I came back to Canada and I was one of a handful of female comedians doing stand-up comedy full-time in Canada for the next 7 years. Humor gave me the best gift at the worst time. Humor got me unstuck. Humor forced me to learn different skills. And because of my love for humor, it gave me the gifts that the fruit flies had temporarily taken away: determination, resilience, and self-motivation. In the face of some pretty scary challenges, flat tires, snowstorms, hell gigs, Norman Bates motels, bad money, bad food, and bed bugs. Humor got me unstuck, and it gave me the gift of flexibility. Later on, I was able to apply humor to another passion that I had, radio broadcasting. What I lacked in radio experience, I made up in comedic experience. And over the next 15 years, I was lucky enough to do morning or afternoon radio shows in Toronto, Ottawa, Montreal, New York, and Los Angeles. Humor also gave me the important gift of fundraising. While I was doing the morning show in Toronto, I was able to hook up with some phenomenal organizations and some wonderful people. We created an annual comedy event that over 6 years raised over $650,000 for breast cancer research. Humor also gave me the wonderful gift of teaching. Second City Toronto asked me to teach stand-up comedy to the next generation of comedians. It's really exciting to use comedy to help people at various stages in their life, many of which I could relate to: switching careers, being afraid, rebuilding, rebranding, building confidence again, or heck, just checking something off of a bucket list. Finally, humor gave me the greatest gift of all: time. For those of us who do comedy or speak for a living, we don't work 9 to 5 jobs, so I recognize that not everybody is in that position, and I feel very lucky. However, as author Richard Reed says, contribute. If you come across a charity, contribute money. If you don't have money, contribute time. And if you don't have time, contribute clothing. I chose to give my time to a local group called City Street Outreach. It's their mission to feed and clothe Toronto's homeless and needy. And when you see people on the street that are sitting on a blanket and you give them a cup of soup or a sandwich and they crack a smile or they crack a joke, you suddenly realize that humor indeed is a gift, sometimes in the darkest moments. So what is your gift? What is your superpower? What is your purpose? In this ever-changing world, many of you will face multiple careers in your lifetime. I'm here to tell you, don't be afraid of change. Use the challenge of change to continually develop new skills. Experiment. Don't be discouraged when things go wrong. Oh, things will go wrong. Don't I know? #chimpanzee. Be brave, be resilient, keep your sense of humor. And don't wait to make it, to make a difference. The world needs you now. Choose one random act of kindness a day. It just might actually help you find your superpower. Look for your superpower. Look for your purpose. Find it, learn it, teach it, and give it back. As Anthony Anderson says from Blackish, be ready, for when your time comes, you will have that window of opportunity. So seize the moment and capitalize on it. At one of the lowest points in my younger life, someone opened a window of opportunity and my fruit flies escaped, with all my dreams of what I thought I wanted to become. And damn if I didn't capitalize on it. Be brave, be resilient, and keep your sense of humor. Thank you.